So I am Trent Wills. I am from Chicago, Illinois, studying business agriculture here at the university, where I am a sophomore here at the university. I'm actually a candidate for the vice president position for SGA. So when the ballot comes out, please, please vote. Exactly. All right, so my task for this morning is to do meditation and grace. So the meditation is from, it's for Lean On Me. It's when we forget ourselves that we accomplish tasks that are most likely to be remembered. Basic Coleman, first African-American female aviator. Ask any achiever the secret of his or her success, and you are likely to hear an answer along these lines. Well, I was fortunate and I worked hard. I didn't make too many mistakes and happened to be in the right place at the right time. This is probably true, but the deeper the truth, however, is that in most cases, the modest people made their own breaks. They became indispensable to their employers, to their enterprise, and snatched the opportunities. Management, clients, and customers alike trust, rely, and lean on these hard-working types in moments of chaos. These movers and shakers take the initiative to assume leadership roles and can often be found volunteering for difficult and unpopular assignments. Indispensable men and women have the enthusiasm to inspire and to self-discipline, to stick to a job until it's complete. Unlike this example below, a man who had been called for jury duty asked to be excused. On what grounds? Asked the judge. He said, "We are very busy at the office, sir, and I ought to be there." So you are one of those individuals who think he's indispensable, you think the firm can't do without you. No, sir. From that, I know very well, but I don't want them to find out. He said, "Excused." The best way for you to develop the security that lasts a lifetime is to become outstanding at one particular line of work. That outstanding man or woman will always be in demand. At this time, we'll do grace. Father God, in the name of Jesus, we just come to you right now just to say thank you, Lord. Thank you for bringing us here under one roof, God. Thank you for planting the vision for the YMTF organization, Lord God. Thank you for giving the vision for wanting to help individuals from the pipeline, from college to the workforce, Lord God. Giving the training that's needed and necessary so we can be successful within our later years, Lord God. Lord God, I ask you to touch everybody that's up under the sound of my voice, Lord God. Heal them, whatever they need, Lord God. I ask you to receive them as your child, Lord God, to bless them, Lord God. As we prepare to have breakfast, Lord God, I ask you to fill them with all the nourishment that they need. Anything that is not like you, do not let them eat it like, Lord God. In Jesus' name I do pray, amen.
A lot of times we paint the picture like we'll get here and I was perfect this, I was perfect that. I don't think I was perfect in anything. And the story behind leaving Walgreens is I was in Memphis on a street called Hollywood in Memphis, probably one of the most dangerous areas in Memphis. It was midnight, and me and my cousin, we was outside on the corner, we was selling stuff. And I remember that this was probably a life-changing moment. A guy pulled up, these guys are still in high school. I mean, that's how they get down in Memphis. We got robbed, shot at us. The unfortunate thing, this was probably like the third time this happened to me in life. First time 11th grade, 12th grade, and this was post-college. So at that point in time, I was like, yeah, I ain't doing this no more. So I went back to Pine Bluff. That's when I told Miss Cherry I didn't work there anymore. And I said, hey, I'm probably gonna need help getting another job. And she was like, Don, I ain't gonna help you. You're messing the jobs off, you're messing the opportunities off. So I kind of sat in that situation, and I just hustled. I opened a store on 28th Street. At this point in time, no help, no assistance, but it was one of the things I talked about, ambition and initiative, right? What does it take to open a business, right? And I think about resources that you guys have. I mean, this is something I tell my kids, like, I don't give them any answers to anything. I ask them questions. I ask them questions. Like, how do I do this? Well, something called the internet. He talked about Google it a lot yesterday. Google it. Google it. And by the time they go back and actually research it and understand it, they come back and apply. What is a Bible scripture? I'm not extremely versed in the Bible, so don't judge me, but give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man a fish, feed him for a lifetime. I think that's a mentality that when you're talking about owning your own success, it's about learning, it's about developing, it's about grasping all those things. When another chapter I kind of want to highlight is will versus skill, right? And I talked a lot about throughout life where I think it was a lot of will. I don't think it was necessarily skill, because hard work beats talent any day. And when I thought about all the things that particularly I wanted to do in life, it was all about will. It was all about understanding what do I need to do to get across the finish line to do these specific things. I opened a successful business at this point in time in college, where I was in grad school, making a ton of money as a college student. But it got to a point in time where things started drying up. This was around 2006. We were hitting a recession at this point in time. The last great recession that we had in 2006. And I came to Miss Cherry at that point in time because I saw things drying up, and I said, Miss Cherry, I need another job. And she says, Don, look, if I help you this time, and that's one thing I can say about her, she made sure she always kept the door open. She said, I'm gonna help you this time, but if you mess this one up, I ain't gonna help you anymore. I said, I respect that. And Murphy Oil Corporation at the time, they were under the name Murphy Oil Corporation, they came to the campus. And it was one of the first times they came to the campus, and they was offering district manager and training jobs to the students. And it was huge. I mean, they was offering good money, all kind of benefits and different things of that nature. And Miss Cherry, she introduced me to a guy, his name was Jay Staggs. And I sat down and talked with him, and I was very transparent about my journey with him. And he said, you got a store? And I was like, yeah, it's over on 28th Street. He was like, let me see your store. He came and checked it out. And all of the things, that the initiative, the ambition, the will, all of that, he saw it. And at that point in time in my life, I couldn't see those things, right? I want to tell you this too, and I probably should have told you at the beginning that you're going to hear a lot of speakers in your life. You heard a lot this week. One thing I'll tell you is all of it is perception, right? Everybody has a different perception of what success means. Everybody has a different perception of what wealth means, right? And I think that has to be grounded in you because it's all values. So a lot of the things that I'm going to tell you today is going to be all perception based, right? And I was looking up success, and it says, what is the definition of success? And it's the accomplishment or aim or purpose. The accomplishment or aim or purpose. And most of the time, I think people attach success to certain things. He got a Gucci belt on, or he drive a Porsche, or she lived in this $1 million home, right? And to me, perception, right? Perception, success is a feeling. It's not things, right? And I learned that throughout life where I would want to achieve something, right? It's almost like a high. You're chasing this high. And I'll say that, well, I want this car. When I go buy the car, I was crazy about the car when I bought the car. But 3 months later, you know what happened? It's just a car. I want to buy this house. 3 months later, it's just a house. And what I found is no matter what you do in those situations, to me, I was still going to be chasing that happiness because that wasn't necessarily success. I just wanted to share my perception with you on that. Perception is a gift to me. Because when you hear perception from a lot of different people, right, it's not a one-size-fits-all situation where Nyere's perception may fit the avenue that you're going down. Ruth's perception may fit the avenue that you're going down. And my perception may fit the avenue you're going down. None of us in this room have the same backstory. All of us have our own different movie. All of us have our own different creation. When I jump back into my chapters, my weaknesses are my strengths. Throughout life, like a lot of these things, I was embarrassed to talk about, right? I don't think I talked about my father's drug addiction until I was like 21 years old. It was embarrassing, right? A lot of the struggle, a lot of the things that I went through. And what I realized throughout life, that all those struggles, all those challenges were strengths. They were strengths. And how do I figure out how to leverage those strengths? And I take you back to this story when I was at Stage Stores, when I convinced the manager to turn it into an internship for me, where I didn't realize I was so used to doing that every day with people that became a strength. And I think about, fast forward to the world I'm in now, where I've had the opportunity, I've lived in 10 different states, worked for some of the biggest corporations in the United States, Dollar General Corporate. I was a regional director for them, like over all their stores in the state of South Carolina. Murphy Oil USA, was over all the stores for them in Georgia and South Carolina. Now I'm over their whole analytics division. Amazon, I helped them launch their first aviation division in Los Angeles. And now I help them stand up a fleet to have airplanes. And I think about that, right? You go all the way back to the story, the start of the story, like it's like almost like one of those Marvel situations where you got this little kid that grew up in the hood, and all of a sudden he's sitting in there with some of the best engineers and some of the best data scientists and different things to try to prove a point. And when I think about that, right, how did that happen? Was that individual brave enough to create those opportunities for yourself, right? And because me and Miss Cherry, we were on the phone 3 weeks ago. We was going back and forth, like, and I appreciate that because I don't like keeping yes men around me. I need you to tell me, like, if I got an ugly outfit on, my outfit might be ugly now. I don't need anybody to say it right now. But if I got an ugly outfit on, I need you to be like, bro, that ain't it, fam. Like, change that. And me and my friends, we used to do this cruel game when we was in college, right? And I mean, you guys know, you go to UAPB, like, if you go somewhere, like, people are very critical of like how you dress, or you going to a basketball game or something like that. So we used to call it the chair. Before we used to go out, you used to have to sit in the chair. And everybody in the room would sit around and they'd criticize what you got on. Like, and it was brutal. But you know what? All of those people cared enough to not let you go nowhere looking like a fool, right? So when I think about success, one of the keys to success is keeping people around me to be like, hey, you sound stupid, dude. Or that doesn't make any sense, like, right? And in corporate America, we call it sparring. We call it candor, like the truth. And when I think about high-level leaders, Nasir and I, we were talking yesterday, and I do a lot of the investor calls and press releases, having to weigh in with the CEO on different things. And when you're dealing with individuals in those situations, they don't want to hear fluff. They need to hear the truth. They need to understand, how bad is this situation, and what do we need to do to potentially get out of this situation, right? So take that same component. I'm looking at success factors of some of the most successful people in the United States. If they're using those principles, right, I feel like I should almost use those principles in my everyday life of saying that, hey, I got to keep people around me that's going to be agents of truth around myself. When I say taking control of my development, that would probably be the next chapter I kind of hit on. Or for me, I hear people, and I see this so much, it's so common in corporate America, and people say, well, why didn't they give me that opportunity? And I'm probably one of the most candid people you'll probably come across in corporate America, where if I feel something, I'm probably gonna say it. Yeah, it's not gonna be sugar-coated. I was talking to this chair, I came down to UAPB right before I took the role that I'm in now, and I still live in Atlanta, and they wanted me to move to El Dorado, Arkansas. And I was like, yeah, I'm not moving to El Dorado. No offense to El Dorado, if anybody's in El Dorado, but demographically it didn't really fit my mold. And they said, well, if you want this job, you're gonna have to move to El Dorado, Arkansas. I said, well, let me explain this to you. So I got 4 kids, all girls. Yeah, I know. 16 twins that are 12 and a 3-year-old. Don't ask me, I don't even know how the 3-year-old happened, but that was not planned. And I explained I was talking to the senior vice president of the company at this time, and she says, Don, I just don't understand, why won't you move? I said, listen, I live in Atlanta, Georgia. That is like the Mecca in the United States for black people. I said, my kids go to some of the best schools. I said, it's tons of people that look just like them that's thriving everywhere. I said, hell, I'm a member of a black country club. I said, I would not take those opportunities for my kids to put them in an environment like that, and there might be a ton of people that don't even want them there. And in this moment, right, I'm thinking to myself, I don't know if anybody ever seen Dave Chappelle, when keeping it real goes wrong, and he ended up being the guy pumping the gas at the gas station. I'm thinking like, yeah, that could happen to me after this conversation. And this was I will remember this like this was the night after the first debate with Trump and Biden. And this was the night after he failed to renounce racism. And I said, I told her this exact line. This is why I thought I was going to be pumping gas at the gas station. I said, I just got through watching the debate last night. And I said, I let my kids watch things like this so they can be educated on what's going on. I said, so, man, you can put a bow on it how you want to, but if you're telling me that my kids can go to school down in an environment and feel good about themselves, right? And we all understand what's going on in America. They just watched the president fail to renounce racism. How do you think that make them feel? How do you think that makes me feel? So if you think I'm moving my kids out of that environment to put them in El Dorado, Arkansas, that ain't gonna happen. I said, I will go. I'll be their sacrifice, but I'm not moving my family there. She said, okay. At that point in time, I made a decision. I asked her a question. I said, does this mean that this is where my career stops? Remember, I told you I'm candid. I said, because if it is, I need to start looking. And she said, no, give me a couple hours. I'm like, all right, well, I called my boss, and I said, yeah, man, I don't know how that went. I don't know how it's gonna go. She called me back in 5 hours, and she said, look, you know what? Thank you for telling us that. She said, we're gonna give you the job, you can stay in Atlanta, we're gonna get you an apartment. You can fly in and out how you want to. Matter of fact, we're gonna give you a relocation bonus and you ain't gotta relocate. And I was like, man, well, keeping it real goes right in this situation. Or keeping it real goes right in this situation. And I think about my peers, I watch them on the sidelines. And I'm in a very odd situation because when I say, and we were talking about this, very few. Like out of our company, we probably got 100 directors, and I'm one of 2 black ones. And when I say that, we're usually working with a challenge where it's not many of us in those situations, right? And I can tell you, I'm not gonna necessarily say, a lot of times I do hear people say, you gotta be better. I'm not gonna necessarily say better, smarter. Smarter. Remember that hustler mentality. It's not always about being the best, but smarter. And I can tell you that a lot of those pieces and a lot of those things have put me in a situation to succeed because I didn't wait on somebody to say, here's an opportunity. I went and took it. I saw a role, and somebody asked a question, hey, should I apply for that role? No, if I want the role, I'm gonna find that person, figure out what I need to do. If I don't have those credentials, figure out what I need to do to get them, and I'm gonna take control of that. If you guys don't leave anything from me on what I'm saying, initiative and ambitious. Now be careful with ambition. I'm gonna have to change that a little bit. I'm gonna have to steal the Dave Chappelle. Ambition is a hell of a drug. I'm gonna have to take the cocaine out. But ambition is a hell of a drug. Like you can be so ambitious, you can destroy your whole family. So be careful with the balance of ambitious and initiative. Initiative is you want to go after something. Ambition is you're going to be relentless till you actually get it. But understand what the trade-offs on that is. I want to leave you with a couple of points because I kind of was thinking about a lot the speakers were saying. They talked a lot about friends, they talked about circles, right? And as I kind of went through this piece, I kind of talked through chapters of one of the chapters that I understand most, and Dr. Fraser said this, when you're 70, you're much different from when you were 60, right? And as you grow, everybody's not gonna keep that same pace with you when you grow. And it doesn't mean that you don't have to be cool with them, but you manage the capacity of individuals as you grow. And that's sad to somebody. Now think about the guys from Memphis, right? I tried to move back into a situation where I had outgrown that situation. And then that situation was gonna pull me down if I would have stayed in that situation. I've seen it happen too many times. So as you grow, understand that you're gonna lose some people along the way. And as you get older, like you start looking around, you're like, man, I don't have many friends. As you grow, your money is gonna change, and their money might not change. And people may say you're acting funny, you might just be moving like you move, and they may not understand how you're moving in those situations. So be prepared as you go through your journey, you're gonna lose some people. Another point is don't be afraid to take a L. That's like key to success. Like man, I've lost way more than I've won. Like for real, it's like a 10-to-1 split, like losses to wins. Michael Jordan, he had a quote, and I don't remember the exact number. He says, everybody remembers the 30 game-winning shots that I made, but nobody remembers like the 127 that I missed. Nobody ever remembers that. They remember those great moments. Last point I want to make before I turn it over. Social media. I'm not going to say anything negative about social media. I actually like social media. But when you're looking at social media, I want you to understand that most of the time you're not seeing the journey in social media. You're usually seeing the finished product, the polished product. You're not seeing the Don Williams that went through the journey, that grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, that dealt with all those things. If you look at social media now, you'll see Donald Slim Williams, the business professional, right? And I think it's very healthy that when you're working with people as you continue to grow to share your journey. Because most of the time, especially now when people have the dominance of social media, you see instant gratification. And I see a lot of people that come to me and say, hey man, I want to do what you're doing. And I'm like, you don't really understood. You didn't understand like what it took to get there, right? So just keep that in mind where it's going to be a journey. You're going to lose some friends. You're going to have initiative. But you know what? Everybody in this room is capable of doing it, no matter what situation you came from. It's your success, and figure out what it's going to be. Two more things. Sorry about that. Let me make this quick announcement. Miss Cherry told me she was going to kick me if I didn't say this. No, but seriously, I'll be at the career fair tomorrow. We have a career fair going from 10 to 1 tomorrow. And I'll be there tomorrow, or Murphy USA will be there tomorrow. And it's gonna, how many, did you say, I think I heard you say 100 different companies? Over 100 companies coming. I can tell you, throughout my tenure at UAPB, I've never seen anything like that with 100 plus companies coming. So, if you want to get a job, we were all talking about this last night. Now is the time to get a job. Like, everybody is hiring right now, and then on top of that, just due to the things that have happened in the economy with wage inflation, right now it's probably a really, really good time to come in, because they're going to be paying premium rates on things. So that's my story. Thank you guys for listening to me. I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Lee.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Where my Helltown people at? Woo! Exactly, Helltown in the house. Well, I'm Dr. Ruth Jones. I'm from West Holden, Arkansas. I'm an associate manager for NASA Marshall Space Flight Center. And basically what that does is I manage people. We are sending people to space, and actually to Mars. We're building the largest rocket right now, which is the Space Launch System, and I'm a part of that. But how did I go from an HBCU to NASA? So I'm going to tell you guys my story. So how many of you did not plan to come to UAPB? UAPB was nowhere in your plans. Hey, we're family, because guess what? UAPB was not in my plans at all. When I was in high school, I wanted to go to the Air Force. I had no dreams of going to college at all. It's not that I wasn't smart enough, it's just I just didn't want to go to college. I wanted to go to the Air Force because I wanted to travel for free, and I wanted to go to school for free. My parents were taking care of 2 of my cousins, so I didn't want to put them in a financial burden. I don't know what my parents' finances were. You know, I just said, 3 kids, 1 going to college, you got to raise 2 more. So I wanted to take the road and just help them out by going to the Air Force. But I had a praying mother, because I was my parents' only child at that time. So I had a praying mother. She never said, don't go to the Air Force. I mean, she always supported me, but she didn't want her girl to go to the Air Force. So she was praying, and God, He intervened. So the day before I was about to sign to go to the Air Force, I had a medical condition to come up. Have not had this medical condition to come up again in my life. I had to have an emergency surgery, and I could not go to the Air Force. So coming from West Holden, if you've ever been to West Holden, Phillips County, there are limited opportunities there. So I knew then I had to leave West Holden in some form or fashion, and that's when I decided to go to college. Initially, I was trying to go to Spelman, Fayetteville, everywhere but UAPB. But when I started looking at UAPB, I was like, why am I going to go way to Spelman, way to Fayetteville? We're going to have the same degree, just a different name on the degree. And that's when I chose UAPB. And it changed my life totally. Now, when I first came to UAPB, I was not a physics major. I was an accounting major. So why did I major in accounting? It was easy. I always loved numbers. I always had a passion for math and science. But I wanted to enjoy the college life. I wanted to kick it while I was at UAPB. But my main goal, my end goal was I had to graduate with honors. Because my parents was like, there are no C's in your name, don't bring any C's home. So I had to graduate with honors. So I was smart enough, I was like, hey, if I make an A on a test, guess what? I was partying that weekend, and I did. But when I was majoring in accounting, Dr. Mia, well, y'all know him as Dr. Dale now, he's one of the physics professors. I had him for college algebra. So he saw my mathematical skills, and he's like, why are you majoring in accounting? You need to major in physics. I'm like, physics? I'm not trying to major in physics. That's going to interrupt my partying life. You know, I wanted to party. And I took physics in high school. I loved it, but I didn't want to take it in college. So I stayed with accounting until my junior year. And not to offend any accounting majors in here, but to me it was just a little too redundant, and it wasn't challenging enough. So that's when I went back to Dr. Mia, or Dr. Dale, as you all know him. And that's when I told him I was going to change my major. He was so elated that I changed my major to physics. But guess what? There were no physics majors on campus. So you know what that meant? It was just me and Dr. Mia in class. So UAPB lives up to their motto, a quality education with a personal touch. Can't get any personal than that. Can you imagine being in class with just you and your professor? That's how it was. For all the upper level physics classes, me and Dr. Mia, and then sometimes me and Dr. Chaudhary. So when I graduated from Pine Bluff, I was the first female to actually earn a bachelor's degree in physics from UAPB. So So that was in 1994. So once I left UAPB, well, before I left UAPB, I always wanted to work for NASA. That was my main goal. Once I changed my major in physics, I said, hey, I'm working for NASA. So I started searching and seeking for internships. So that semester that I changed my major, I worked for NASA Goddard Space Flight Center in Maryland. And I worked there that summer. And then once I graduated, I went to Marshall Space Flight Center for another internship. So that was just on my mind. I wanted to work for NASA. So I made those decisions to seek those opportunities. So once I graduated, I went to Alabama A&M University to pursue my master's and PhD in physics. Once I was in graduate school, then that's when I sought co-op positions with NASA right there in Marshall, in Huntsville. And once I graduated my PhD, that's when NASA hired me full-time. But in between those graduate years, being the only physics major here at UAPB, I thought personally I wasn't prepared to go to graduate school because I was the only physics major. So I was like, I really couldn't gauge how smart or how dumb I was because I wasn't competing with anybody. I had the grades, but I just didn't know how to gauge my knowledge. But once I got to graduate school and people were there from MIT, we had the Asians there, we had the Indians there. So they were really smart, and I was just like, oh man, I don't think I'm fit out for this. To come to find out, I was smart as they were, or smarter. Because in some classes, I was the only one that made an A out of the class. I'm like, wow, I had to call Dr. Me and Dr. Rossi. You guys really prepared me for this. But at the time, I didn't know that. Because I kind of took it for granted. I'm like, oh, I'm on the physics major, just do your work. But when I got to graduate school, it was on a whole different level. But I can say that UAP prepared me for that. And not only did they prepare me for that, but being the only physics major on campus, I had to make sure I utilized my time wisely. Time is very important. And I just want to ask you guys this, if I, which I cannot do, but if I could give you guys $86,400 every day of your life until you died, every day, what would you do with that money? But wait, it's always a caveat, because when we give you something, you got to give something back. It's a click to it. I'm just not going to give you the money, but you got to do something with that money. At the end of the day, just at 12:01, I'm going to deposit $86,400 into your bank account. Become midnight, all that money must be gone. But the next day, I'm going to give you another $86,400. So what would you do with that money? Just think about that. Let that sink in. Because I love numbers, so I'm always twisting these numbers around. So when you think about it, 86,400 seconds is 24 hours. Each day, God gives you 24 hours in a day. So it's up to you to decide on how you're going to use that time. While here at UAPB, at your job, wherever you are, all of us have 24 hours. The president, Ms. Cherry, your pastor, your parents, everybody. That's one thing we're all equal in across the United States and America. But at the end of the day, all that time is gone. You can't get it back like, man, I need 4 more hours so I can do this. It doesn't work that way. So you have to make sure you utilize your time wisely. Because time is money, money is time. You're going to spend it, waste it, or invest it. So by me being the only physics major, now that some of my friends and sorors and friends that just didn't really know me on campus, they know me now, it's like, we didn't know you was a physics major. Because guess what? I was at every party. When I say I kicked it on campus, I kicked it. But I had that gold cord, 1994, May 14th, when I walked across that stage, I was an undergraduate. But I didn't miss any parties though. But guess what? Time management. Within those 86,400 seconds, so I had all my classes in the morning time, 8, 9, 10, 11, between 11 and 1, hung out in front of the union. See, all my friends had their classes 1, 2, and 3. I go back to my room, do my homework, sleep, go to lunch, go to dinner, then we hang out in front of the Harold Complex. Then we hang out in front, and then we go to the parties. That was my schedule, but I knew what I wanted to do with my 24 hours. So while you're here at UAPB, you have to decide on how you're going to manage your time. So fast forward, I'm in grad school, did the same thing. I had to make sure I managed my time there. Because when I went to grad school, I didn't want to let UAPB down. I didn't want to let my parents down. I didn't want to let my city down. I didn't want to let my church down. And I definitely didn't want to let myself down. Because you know, you go off to these places, it's like, oh, you went to UAPB, then you're not going to do this. You know, when one person fails, they look at the whole university. So when you step out, you got to make sure that you represent. Because when I went to NASA for the first time, I was in a meeting, there was like 65 people in my group. About 90% of them were men, white men, old white men. When I say old, I mean old enough to be my parents. I was the only black that was in that group. We had 4 females, but 3 were white, and I was the only black woman. And I was the youngest. So they're looking at me when they meet, and it's like, oh, ask Dr. Ruth, she has her PhD. And I'm looking like, well, you've been working here 30 years, you don't know? But they try to test you to see if you know what you know. They already know the answer. They just want to see how you're going to derive the answer, how you're going to accept the answer. And you know what? If I didn't know something, I said, well, you know what? I don't know that right now. That's beyond my scope of research. You have to know how to frame things. But you know, I get back with a week or 2 with an answer. So don't ever perpetrate like you know something you really don't. It's okay to say that you don't know. Because they know if you know or not. They just want to test you. And coming from an HBCU, they expect us to work so much harder. We have to work so much harder than they do. You know, when I first came out, I mean, they come in jeans and t-shirts like they're going to a baseball game. So I used to dress up. I remember one lady, she was like, why you always dress up every day? And I was like, well, I'm at work. These are my work clothes. This is what I was taught. When you go to work, you dress up. But they come in there with t-shirts on, tennis shoes, baseball caps, like they're going to a game. If we did that, they would look at us differently. But I must say to y'all, whenever you do any type of internships or go anywhere, always dress to impress. And you dress for the job that you're wanting to go to. See, when I was just an internship, I dressed up. And I was a researcher. I dressed up as a researcher. I mean, I came in suits every day at that time, but I had on slacks and nice blouse in the lab. But my main goal, I wanted to get to management. So guess what? Now I'm in management. Because they saw that in me. It's like, oh, she's dressing and she knows her stuff. We need to put her in this professional development. So that's what you have to do. You have to go and make sure that you represent yourself and know where you're going. That's the key thing. So my role, co-op was my way to get into NASA. So you have to make sure that you take these opportunities with UAPB. Like Don said, a career fair is going to be here tomorrow. Take advantage of that. Even if you don't want to do an internship, talk to them and see if you work part-time if it's local, but you have to make sure that you decide on what you want to do. Because guess what? You're the CEO of your life. You are in control. Not your parents. I mean, they may dictate to you, but you got to do what you want to do. Because you got to live with this for the rest of your life. So make sure that while you're here at UAPB, get all the education you can. Ask questions, everything. Do all types of extra activities. Oh, I thought you said, I'm like, okay. Oh yeah, make sure you go to class. That's the key. Go to class. True story. Out of my 12 years of school, from 1st grade to 12th grade, I only missed 2 days out of 12 years. 2 days. 6th grade and 12th grade. 6th grade, I was in our bus, brakes went out, had a wreck. Had to go to the hospital, had to spend the night overnight. And then the time my mom was praying, I could not go to the Air Force for the emergency surgery. Just 2 days out of 12 years. So every year, how you get those little certificates, perfect attendance. Oh yeah, Ruth Jones out. That's me. I got it every year. So my thing to you all, make sure you go to class. Because see, for me, nobody can take good notes better than me. I take the best notes. Some of your friends may not take as many notes as you may need them to take. You may read their handwriting. But you need to be there to absorb the information. You need to be there so you can ask questions. So make sure you utilize UAPB. Don't underestimate UAPB. Because if it had not been for UAPB, I wouldn't be where I am today. So make sure you get all the education you can. Because I have a thing, education like Coca-Cola. It is a real thing. Education like General Electric. It will light your path. Education is like Scotch tape. You can't see it, but you know it's there. Education is like American Express. You can never leave home without it. So what's in your head, nobody can take that away from you. You know, education like Nike, just do it. It's up to you, get it done. So my points to you guys are, I want you all, since you are CEO of your life, I want you all to get a board of directors for your life. That means get at least 3 mentors out of different areas. Get you a peer, a best friend who's gonna tell you the truth. Like Don said, you get you somebody who's gonna tell you the truth. If you look at regular that day, your hair ain't together, your wig out of place, you know, if your fade ain't tight, you need that friend. Then you need a spiritual person who's gonna guide you spiritually. It doesn't have to be your pastor, but somebody who knows the word. And then thirdly, you need somebody, if you're in physics, you need to find somebody in physics who can guide you and navigate you through that path. If you're in accounting, find somebody who's on the road where you want to go. Because you can't do it by yourself. That's why you have role models. And it's a difference between role models and goal models. You know, most times people, who's your role model? Oh, Barack Obama, oh, Steph Curry. Can you talk to those people? No. Those are goal models. Those are people, goals are where you want to get to. Role models is somebody you call up on the phone, you can email, you can text. That's somebody like Ms. Charity, Felicia Dunn. These are role models. So whatever major that you're in, you go out and seek somebody in that field so they can give you the ins and outs so you don't have to make the same mistakes that they made. That's what we're here for. So we want to make sure that you guys' process is a lot easier than ours. And I just ask you one last thing. Once you make it, make sure you reach back and help somebody else. So I'm going to pass it on to the next speaker.
It's always hard coming behind Dr. Jones because of how brilliant she is. Because what I was going to talk to you guys about, I kind of feel like I probably should not. But I am. Academic success with where you are. You know, she talked about making A's and striving for those A's. I don't know about you, but I struggled my first year in college. And I came out number 10 in my class, and everybody told me I was smart. And I went to a PWI. First day in chemistry class, we walk in there, and the teacher's like, well, I'm assuming you guys know the periodic table of elements. We're starting at chapter 4. I'm like, what is she talking about? So the school I grew up in Mariana, we didn't have chemistry labs. The Bronson burners didn't work. We didn't have any of the lab equipment that we needed to have. So that first week, I knew I was a fish out of water. But as Don said, if somebody feeds you fish, you only get fed for that day. But if you learn how to fish, you're gonna figure it out. And that's what I spent that 4 years doing, is figuring it out. I actually went to the local high school at the end of that first week and got with the chemistry teacher and I was like, look, she didn't even cover these 3. We're starting here. I need you to help me get these 3. And it took me that whole semester. When I say I fought and scratched and clawed for that C, I did. You've heard it a number of times today. It is not about where you start, it is about how you finish. Anytime you find yourself struggling, you have got to find what's in you and be able to bring it out. You can't be afraid to ask for help. So even though I knew I was smart, and I knew I was capable, it was not showing up on that paper. And I didn't know what the issue was. And I didn't know about mental health. And I was struggling. But I was still powering through. I was still joining clubs. I was still being involved on campus. And I was continuing to double down. I built my schedule. She talked about maximizing that time. I made sure I had morning classes so that I could spend the rest of the day grinding it out. Before my friends, as you talked about, before your friends get out of class, and then you know you're about to hang out. I had to figure out how to get my own time management to a point that allowed me to learn something. And this is where representation matters. And I was one of 4 black males in my graduating class from college. And we had 1 black chemistry professor, and she came into my second year. I thought I was about to get kicked out. I was on a full tuition ride, still struggling with these C's, and I'm going, man, this is not gonna cut it. I gotta figure this thing out. I know I can do this. So she goes, so I'm telling her about it, and she's like, come with me. So we go to the chemistry lab, and we go into this classroom, And she says, go down on the board, write me, tell me about what you're struggling with. Just write down everything you know. So I'm up there and I'm freezing, because now the pressure's on. Somebody's actually watching me while I'm trying to study. And I was going, oh my God, I'm scared to look at my notes. She said, it's just me and you in here. Look at your notes if you need to. So I turn around, look at my notes. She's still there, and I'm like, okay, got it. Now I'm just writing, and I'm talking, and I'm flowing. And I turn around, you know who's not there? She's gone. One of the things that I think she knew about me that I didn't even know at that time is that I was a good communicator. My studying needed to be in the way that I communicate. The way that I'm interacting with you, this is how I interact with our CEO. This is how I interact with my staff. But I know how to prepare. Once I learned how to prepare myself, the ability to own my success was always mine. Every difficulty after that, in college and in the workplace, it was met with that. Even when I give a talk, I may be walking and it's going through my head what I want to say. I'm picturing who might be in there. I'm picturing about how to read the room. How do I pivot? Where's this going? All of those things because I had to learn how to understand who I was and how to teach myself. If you're struggling right now academically, ask yourself, what's wrong with what I'm doing now? And try something differently. Find you somebody who can help you see that difference. Because clearly, what you are doing is not working even for yourself. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and getting the same result. There's two lenses to that. If you do it and it breeds success, you do it again. That's not insanity. But if you do it and you get the same success, and it's like that addiction, if you're not getting that result that you want, if you're not pushing that success, you have to figure out what you're missing. So at every point, you have to challenge yourself. You have to always be curious. So that's the ABCs of this message right here. It's to always be curious. Curious about how you study. Curious about how you learn. Be curious about how you're communicating. What is the message that you're sending? If you think about anybody has anybody ever been to a brand class about teaching you about your brand, building your brand? So I see one or two hands. Building your brand is really about the ABCs. So what are you communicating to the audience that you have? Dr. Jones talked about style. I wear a bow tie every day at work. If I'm home, I may just have a cardigan and a t-shirt on, but if I step in that office, they're about to get this work. That's just the bottom line. People say, why do you dress like this? It's about that position head. But when I walk over into the C-suite, our CEO is about to get probably a $20 million bonus this year. Not his salary, not his stock option, we're talking about cash bonus. This is public, you can Google it. So when you walk over into that C-suite, oh, it's custom everything. They can afford it. And I can afford the way that I dress, but I certainly need to walk in there like I'm on par. And they will actually compliment me on my style. And I don't like it. I dress like this every day. At some point, my work has to have its own value proposition. So I'm always curious about that. And so I once asked them, I said, wait, look, why do you guys always tell people about how you dress? They said, Nyerere, you stand out. I was curious, and now I realized that them talking about it, that was also their way of saying the black man that's coming through that door. They say, if you walk in and you see the best dressed person you've ever seen, that's Nyerere. But because I was curious, I found out the why. And I was able to let go of something that I was holding on that was bothering me. Because I was unapologetic in how I was showing up. But I needed to be curious about the perceptions that were around me. Perceptions about you will become a reality. Not a reality in that it's actually you, but enough people believe, and I'm just still a little bit, if enough people believe you ain't shit, it's gonna be hard for you to prove otherwise. So it is your responsibility not to own the perception, but you gotta figure out how to manage that perception. And you need to be curious about yourself. And you need to ask yourself, why might somebody believe this about me? Why might somebody have this perception about me? And you need to check your own language. You need to check your own body language. You need to check how you're presenting yourself, because you're giving off information about yourself in everything you do. If somebody interprets it wrong, it's one thing. But if you don't know what you're sending out, you can't even verify if it's right or it's wrong. You have to always be curious. There's a book called Difficult Conversation by some Harvard professors. And there's a class that they do, and I've attended this class a couple times. It's a book that I read one time a year, every year. Another book that I read all the time is Earl G. Graves Sr., How to Succeed in Business Without Being White. Both of those books talk about the power of curiosity. In the first book, and this is the one I'm going to talk about in Difficult Conversations, you're not always one thing or another. Every time you tell yourself, well, I'm always this. Nobody is always on time. Nobody always feel good. Nobody's always hungry. Nobody is always anything. Over the course of time, over the course of a day, you go through many emotions. You go through a full spectrum of things. So some of you are saying you're not always hungry. If you eat a full meal and you're still hungry, you should be curious about what's going on in your body that you're still hungry. I can get into the science of that, but 15 minutes after you eat, your body sends a signal that says, hey, I've ate enough. Again, you gotta be curious about yourself. So let me get back on track. When you're going through and you're thinking about the perceptions that maybe somebody have about you, and in this book, they give this example of, if I step on Alvin's toe, and I automatically assume I'm a good person, and Alvin's upset. If you're not curious about what's happening or what's going on, this is how it's going to play out. Man, you know I didn't mean to step on your foot. What's wrong with you? I'm telling him that I didn't hurt him. That is not my responsibility. If I step on his toe, if I'm curious, I need to acknowledge that I stepped on your toe. If I'm curious, I also need to accept that he decided that this hurted him, or this hurt him. But if you're not curious, you're going to stand on your own merit and say, I didn't intend to do it, so there's no way you can be hurt. Your intentions does not mean it can't have an impact on somebody else. Your best intentions could still have a negative impact on somebody else. You have to be curious about your intentions. If you think about what I said yesterday, and I was talking about my kids and I was projecting onto them that I was feeling abandoned, I didn't know it. I wasn't curious about that until I entered therapy. And that's when that came out. But I was projecting on them something that they never asked for. So I'm projecting on him in an event where I hurt him, and I'm trying to convince him of my good intention. My good intention, my goodness in my heart does not stop the fact that I stepped on his foot. And it does not stop the fact that he said it hurt. When you find your place of curiosity, you find your opportunity to accept the true value of something. The perception that I'm good, if I'm truly managing that, I need to be curious about my impact to him. But if you stand on the merits of your intention, you're losing a place of curiosity. You're losing an opportunity to learn something about yourself. And that's what's so important about this journey that you are in right now. This is the last time, save for the folks who may go to grad school and stay on campus and be full tuition. And I'm going to also excuse the folks who are living full-time on their own. But for the most part, college is considered the last time that you're in this state of really still having some folks looking over you. When you graduate, that was the shock of my lifetime. Where was I staying? Who was paying for it? How to turn on utilities? What are you talking about? I owe this tax. All of these things, which is a flood of things that I felt like college did not prepare me for. The first time I voted, I didn't know what a bond tax was. What is a meal? Like, what am I actually saying I agree to? I have to be curious even as an adult. And I remain curious even now. And in order for me to own my success and figure out what that next step is to be vice president, I have to be curious about my strengths. I have to be curious about my weakness. I have to be curious about who do I know? How am I building the right relationships? These are things that you should be practicing right now. Every year with YMTF, and I'm going to close with this, as you guys are here, and you're not finding somebody that you don't know, another student or another consultant, you have to ask yourself, am I really taking advantage of this opportunity? And I know I can speak for the panel, but when I go to conferences, I'm finding another black scientist that I don't know. I'm also going to meet a white scientist that I don't know. I'm going to look for somebody who has the same title or do the same thing that I do. I'm also going to look for somebody who lives in Chicago, where I live now. I'm also going to look for somebody who lives in the hubs for my industry, which is South San Francisco and Cambridge. I am going to be curious about who is there, what are they doing, what are your goals while you're here. I am going to be doing my competitive intelligence, because for the rest of your life, when you come out of this place, you will always be in competition. And because you will always be in competition, you should always be curious. You're not going to be the only person at a dealership trying to buy a car. You're not going to be the only person ever trying to buy a house. You're not going to be the only person trying to find a spouse. You're not going to be the only person just trying to find a doctor. You're not going to be the only person doing anything, because the only thing that you can do that is only you is truly be yourself. So always be curious about who you are, and you will be in a position to own your success in everything you do. Thank you.
Next, we're going to queue up Andreas Bloomfield, and the next one you'll hear will be Ms. Kelley.
Hey, good morning, students. My name is Andreas Bloomfield. I'm from St. Catherine, Jamaica. I was a foreign exchange student here at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. I majored in psychology when I attended the university. Today we'll be talking about owning your own success. And when Ms. Cherry asked me to speak about owning your own success, I was very happy to accept or offer to doing this, because I've been through a lot, and I think my story may be helpful for someone. I grew up in a small town called Old Arbor Bay, in St. Catherine, Jamaica. I wasn't from a rich family. I lived in a one-bedroom house with my parents when I was in high school. I would say about 500 square foot, if that much. It might have been 300 because their bed was on one side of the room and so was ours, and the living room. It was all there in the same spot. And I remember my mom used to use newspaper, especially during the wintertime, and stuff the holes from the board that used to be rot. And she put the newspaper in a plastic bag so when it rains, the paper wouldn't get wet, and the paper was insulation from keeping the cold out, right? Our bathroom used to be outside, whether to take a shower or to use the restroom, it was outside, so you'd have to always walk outside. So I came from humble beginnings, and my parents didn't have a lot, okay? They didn't have a lot, and there were times we struggled. I remember one day we went about 2 or 3 days and we didn't eat, and I still had to go to school. And I used to just, when it was lunchtime, I didn't go to the break room. I went and just sat outside under a tree until lunch was up. I remember one time I came home and I was so hungry, and one night I was like, Lord, just please let me die in my sleep so I won't have to be hungry when I wake up in the morning. Ain't I glad he didn't answer that prayer? But there were tough times for me, and being in high school, it was tough. Kids used to make fun of my shoes. I'm talking about them shoes used to be ugly too. They were ugly, but we couldn't afford anything else. And so I used that as motivation. It helped to build character. And so even now when I manage people, I think about those things like, you know what? I have people that work for me that probably can't afford lunch, or their home situation may not be the best. And so it dictates how I treat people, right? Always treat people good, because once they're in my presence and when they're with me at work, it should be a pleasurable time for them. But let me go back to Jamaica just for a little bit. Because I knew that my situation wasn't the best, I made the choice to change my situation. I didn't sob and sit in my sorrows and say, well, I came from a rough background. My parents were poor, so I had to go rob, or I had to go sell drugs. No, I didn't. I made sure every time I got a test or whenever I was at school, I gave it my very best. I started running track in the 8th grade, and I gave it my all every single time I was on the track. I remember one summer, I was doing off-season work without anybody telling me to do it. I was running, and I passed the athletic director for my high school, and he was like, hey, Andreas, what you doing? I said, I'm doing off-season work. He was like, boy, we won't have no track team no more. Track and field not going to take you anywhere. You need to go home. And I was like, wow, okay. And I walked for a little bit, but then I was thinking, like, I'm not going to let what he tells me determines my future. He doesn't have the last say so. And I just started running. And every time I got on that track, I remembered him. And I ran. And I did my very best. And I gave it my all every single time. I ended up getting a full scholarship. And when I did my speech at graduation, I asked him to stand because I want to thank him for motivating me. And I made them know every single thing that he said to me and how he motivated me. And I just wanted to thank him and not shame him, but make sure he knew that I appreciated his motivation. He might have been said to be harmful for me, but it's not what people say to you, it's how you interpret it and how you take it and how you let it affect you. I didn't let it affect me negatively. I could have chose to, but I didn't. I was owning my own success. Like my hat says, I don't quit. So I came to UAPB. I went to Southwestern Christian College first. It was a 2-year JUCO. Graduated from there, and then I came to UAPB. I ran track for a year here, and then they didn't have money to fund the track program, and all the scholarships were cut. And so I went to Walmart to work. I didn't have a car. I used to walk from the Delta. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, I used to walk from Delta to Walmart to work every single day. Rain, sleet, or snow. I used to walk to work, because I had a goal and I had a purpose, and nothing was going to stop me. So I'm sorry if you give me an excuse. And I was like, okay. And it doesn't really affect me because, yeah, I know you're going through a tough time, but you can still do it. You don't have, I understand, yes, you can be like, okay, it's a setback, but you have to come up with a plan on how to overcome, right? Use your struggles to build your character. I worked all through college. I worked. And now I'm happy to say that I'm doing well for myself. I can't complain. God has been good to me. But I did not see this coming. But I knew that if I kept working and if I made a plan and I executed my plan and I kept working and just chip away at my plan little bit by little bit, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And so that's what I kept doing, just kept going. I learned a poem in the first grade. And the poem says, "The heights of great men reach and kept were not attained by sudden flight, but they, while their companions slept, were toiling upwards through the night." I never forgot that poem. A lot of times when I had tough times, I had to recite it. So it was like my mantra that I rehearsed and I said all the time to give me motivation, because there were all tough times. I admit, sometimes I felt like giving up, but it wasn't in me. It's not in my DNA to quit. It is not in our DNA to quit. So yes, you'll have setbacks, but you have to keep fighting. I remember a lot of times in Jamaica, when I ran track, sometimes I'd go out and hang out with the guys out front and they'll offer me marijuana. I was like, no, I don't want it. And they'll say, you a mama's boy. Oh, you soft. Yeah, I am. It didn't matter what you said to me because I had a plan, right? And I knew when I went to run, I might get drug tested and it could derail my plans. So I never let anyone influence me. And after I said no a couple of times and I shared my plan that I didn't want it to affect me running, now when people offered it to me, they were defending me and was like, no. He doesn't want it. He has a plan to run and to get a scholarship to go to the U.S. And so don't offer that to him. He's going to be one of them that get out of this community. So real friends don't let you fail. If you have a friend offering you bad things or giving you drugs and giving you bad advice, then they're not really your friends. They're associates. And so you might need to look at your circle that you have and change your circle. I just want to say that in college, it might seem like it's tough right now and that you're going through a lot. You might not have the support of your family. My parents couldn't really support me because they didn't have it to support me. And I couldn't blame them. Look, your parents do the best that they can with what they have a lot of times. And they're not perfect, right? Dads are not perfect. Moms are not perfect. Everybody make mistakes. But don't let their mistake be your crutch to not keep going and not to go out and get what you want, right? You have to fight for what you want. You have to work hard for what you want. You have to work hard for what you want. I remember, I think it's Booker T. Washington said one time that success cannot be measured by what one has accomplished, but the obstacles one overcome to accomplish it. So don't forget, you have to work hard for what you want. Now, I have houses for real estate. I'm an executive at Amazon. I am a site lead, now newly promoted regional manager, right? And I'm just thankful for the opportunity. If I gave up, I would have never gotten here. You know, it's all about just working hard, building relationships, executing your plan, not giving up. Don't ever give up. If you want it, you have to work for it, but you have to create a plan. You have to create a plan. If you don't create a plan, it's just a wish. You know what you want, so keep working for it. I am in your corner and I am cheering for you. Go out and get it. You can do this.
We are down to what I consider to be the best part of the day, and this is a chance for you to ask questions of the folk who have been speaking and talking to us this morning. So tell me your name, one thing you learned, then ask your question. Is that fair? Okay.
I realized that UAPB is a hidden gem, and that success is built in silence. I didn't know that UAPB had such a great history with having alumni that are in corporate America, that had alumni that worked for NASA, that had alumni that are so high up, but we never hear about UAPB elsewhere. I'm from Chicago, Illinois. We know nothing about the small area in Iowa, Arkansas. We don't. We hear about the major HBCUs like Howard, Morehouse, Spelman. We hear about those, but we don't hear about this hidden gem in Iowa, Arkansas. Now, that's my question. So, panelists, I do have the question, Rob, you guys are in corporate America. It's a two-part question. One, how did you remain humble? And then dealing with others within these various offices, how did you stay true to yourself and or to your roots?
I think the humility part becomes, when you put in the work, you know what it's like. And it's hard to step away from knowing the difficult days, because those difficult days are what you remember when the next difficult day comes. That is your reminder that I've overcome something before. So that's part of that staying humility. I think the challenge in corporate America for all of us is, can we truly bring our authenticity to the table? I'm oftentimes in meetings going, man, this Dave Chappelle reference would be fire right now, but I know they're not gonna get it. So there's a little bit of that authenticity you can't do. But when I'm around my black colleagues, I can have my full authenticity. Let me be very clear. In your authenticity, you are not always any one part of you. You have to adjust your language depending on where you are. Just like in the classroom, there's an inside voice, outside there's a play voice. I know what my corporate voice looks like when I'm with the CEO, and I know what it's like when my boy Ted come by my office. That I am still the same person. Somehow we've gotten to this notion that as you learn what's called code switching, that you're not being authentic to yourself. In being authentic to yourself, you realize the value of there is a time and place for everything. You are authentic to the moment that you are in. There's a moment for you to be crying. There's a moment for you to be celebratory tears. There's a moment for you to be focused. And there's a moment for you to be quiet and listening. Authenticity is about recognizing who you need to be in that moment that brings out the best in who you are.
And I will echo everything that he said, but in addition to that, in order to be humble, you have to know yourself. And when you know what you know, and that you know, then you can be humble without being arrogant. You have self-confidence. And I say that because I've been in meetings and rooms with a lot of white people, a lot of old, arrogant white people. And they will try to intimidate you. They will try to degrade you. And they will try to put you on the spot. But when you know yourself and you know what you know, you can remain humble. But you can only do that if you have a support system. You have somebody praying for you. We talked about that the other day. And you also have to have that network. And when they try to degrade you, well, for me, when they just keep throwing, darts, whatever, guns, bullets, whatever they be throwing at me. It's like Wonder Woman. Y'all probably remember Wonder Woman, but back then she had a little brush, she just shoot them all. And to me, that fuels me to do better, but also to humble myself. I never get too high up. When they say I can't do it, I say, okay, watch me.
Yep, watch me work.
I'm gonna do it. And I do it with the help of others. So you have to know how to navigate the system. And then in order to be true to myself, I know who I am. So like Nyerere said, you have to know basically how to play the game. And the rules gonna change when it comes to us. But so you have to know how to navigate the system, use them to get to where you are and where you want to be. So it's not like you're switching up, you're not yourself. When you get around them, you talk this way. But if you speaking correct English is not being white.
That's absolutely right.
That's why they teach us in school correct grammar. So when you get around your people, you may say, what's up, whatever, but you're not going to go in the meeting, what's up, y'all? You know, you're not going to do that. You're going to say, good morning. So you have to determine when to switch it on, when to switch it off. But it's not, you're not being yourself. You're still being yourself. You just have to know when to turn it on and when to turn it off.
I'm going to kind of hit on both points. When I think about humility, and I talked a little bit about this earlier, when you progress in life, right, and I think about circles. Circles are important. So as I continue to move up, right, and I think about this analogy. If you got 5 friends, and you hang out with 5 friends and all of them are millionaires, right? And you're not a millionaire, either 2 things are gonna happen. Either you're gonna become the 6th millionaire, or they're gonna remove you from that circle. And as you progress through life, right, I think it's very important to maintain humility by surrounding yourself around people where you're not the Northern Star.
That's right.
I intentionally put people around me that I can learn and grow from that keep me very humble. I intentionally put people around me who are doing things that I have not achieved or accomplished, but I want to accomplish, and Nasir talked about that, where I have these individuals around me because I'm trying to actually get to the level that they're at. I think it's very easy for people to walk around with the mentality of being a big fish in a small pond. You got to understand if you're in a small pond, right? And I got an early dose of that in my career where my first go around at Murphy Oil, I worked for them for 10 years. Everybody knew me. I was their guy. Like to the point where I'm in all the training videos, doing all the PR, all of that stuff, right? And I went to Dollar General. Dollar General at that point in time had 16,000 stores, right? And I went from a company that had 1,500 stores. 1,500 stores is still a lot. But going to a scale of somewhere like Dollar General, I was like, oh man, I don't think I'm as good as I thought I was, right? So I got that pill of humility real quick. But I'm gonna quote Drake, I got a chance to understand if I was who I thought I really was.
Yes.
Because I got a chance to rise to that occasion. Because now I'm surrounded with different players in a different field. Can I actually rise to the occasion to be that way? And it was the same way when I went to Amazon. I got a real big dose of humble pie where those were like some of the smartest people I ever worked with in my life. And I had to make a decision, whether I'm gonna become one of the smartest people I ever worked with in my life, or whether I'm gonna get kicked out of the circle.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
And that was a easy dose of humility. Now, when you talk about being comfortable in your environment, I don't know, I mean, I'm a person where a lot of companies use the term fit. Who was talking about this, they're looking for the right fit, but I actually look for the right fit in the company. Like, if you can't accept me for who I am, I don't need to work there. Yeah. And I can't say that everybody has that luxury. That's just my situation. I kind of look at myself, I'm like Allen Iverson of corporate America. Like, he came in, he had braids, the NBA said, yeah, you shouldn't wear braids, right? But one thing I do know is I know my talents and I know my strengths, and you're not gonna go get another Don Williams. So for me, when I'm searching for companies, I'm searching for fit, and Amazon gave me that gift to let me know, hey dude, all you gotta do is perform. You can come to work with basketball shorts on and Jordans. Don't care what you do in it. That's a true statement. I wore Jordans and basketball shorts on our airfield at Amazon. All they cared about was how good I was, right? So for me, I look for opportunities where people are gonna accept me for who I am. Yeah. You can't accept me for who I am, then I take my talents to South Beach like LeBron. So.
My name is Miss Christiana Lawrence. I'm a junior here at the University of Arkansas at Tom Bluff, major in political science, holding a GPA of 3.8. I am ready to be your next HGA president. So when you guys go to the poll, make sure you vote Miss Christiana D. Lawrence. Something that I learned, but let me start off on Saturday night. Mr. Jeffrey Johnson. No more rules. If you don't love yourself, you cannot lead. So make sure you choose yourself before you try to lead others. Yesterday with Mr. Nyerere Billups, I learned your environment is not what. Don't let your environment make you, you make your environment. From Ms. Ruth Jones, I learned that even if you're the only person in the room that is your color, you don't have to act like that you don't know. No, don't act like that you do know. Just say that you don't know. Because one thing about it, people know if you know or not. They just want to see if you're going to lie about it. Something I learned from Mr. Dunn is, it's not about your background. You make your background your motivation to go where you want to go. So always make sure you put your best foot forward, because it's not about where you start, it's about how you finish. And my question to you guys is what did you guys find your why?
I think that's a difficult question, because I think your why is always going to be changing. I think for all of us, there was a why of where we were was not where we wanted to be. And I think where we are now, the why is different because of where we're trying to go. So I think your why, if I think about this on the fly, is your why is right now. Your why is right now. And as we learned yesterday, your why at 20 is going to be different than 30, so it's going to be different than 40. So your why now is important for right now. Make your moves based on the why right now.
Hello, my name is Kerry Hargrove. I'm a computer science major. What I learned was not underestimating the UAPB like he was saying. My question is school related. So Ms. Ruth, do you have any study tips for physics?
Do I have any what?
Study tips for physics.
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you my graduate years, because in undergrad, I basically just, I just memorized stuff. But in grad school, what I used to do is rewrite my notes, and that really helped a lot. Because when you write notes in class, you're just writing it down, you're not really comprehending what it was. So when I got in grad school, I would go home and rewrite my notes and then understand what the actual problems were. How did we come to those equations? So that's one good study tip I'll have. And then also have a good relationship with your professor. If you have questions, go talk to them, because more than likely they're foreigners. Sometimes you don't understand their language and how they're speaking, so you have to go to them one-on-one. And don't be afraid to ask questions.
Hello, my name is Cortland Pinkin. I'm currently getting my master's in computer science. What I've learned from you guys yesterday, therapy is important. It's actually something that I've been in the process of doing. And it's crazy because when you talk about therapy, that same day I was talking to a friend, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just let this therapist go. She's not working for me. I'm just gonna figure it out. I kind of already got it figured out. It's just, so you kind of recommitted me back to focusing on actually having a therapist. So I thank you for that. With you, I learned time management is very important. Okay, I learned that time management is very important, which I knew, but it's like I'm really in the process of learning how to structure everything on my plate, because I have so much things going on in my life. So just figuring out how to structure everything is what I learned from you. And then from you, I definitely learned, to have people around you with agents that are agents of truth. My dad always told me you can't take everybody on your journey because everybody don't pack the way you do. And so with that, it just kind of really stuck with me rather. And so I appreciate you on that, because I'm in the process of wanting to accept people. Most people say no new friends. Hello, friends. I'm willing to put people in my life that I can grow from and that I can grow with. So I appreciate that piece of advice as well. Okay, so my question is, what was the biggest risk that you guys had to take, or failure, and how did you overcome it, or what was the conclusion?
I got a lot of failures, Ms. Chair. I don't know if I need to go through that list.
I got a lot of them too. I got some too.
I think one of the biggest risks I took, I was working for a company. I was working for Murphy for 10 years, and I bet on myself. That was probably one of the hardest transitions, where you're very comfortable, and I think that in life we get very comfortable with routine and we don't want change. So one of the biggest risks was I called and pretty much put in my notice to go work for a competitor. And when I tell you that every emotion, every fear, that Drake syndrome, are you who you think you really are? I was afraid to step into a situation like that and find that out, because it can be just devastating if you find out if you're not really that guy, right? Or girl. So I think that was one of the biggest risks for me when I stepped out, and I think the message behind that is just stepping out of your comfort zone. Like, are we willing to get out of that safe space? You may have grew up in Little Rock, Arkansas. Are you willing to take that leap to Dallas, Texas, or Atlanta, Georgia? So just stepping out of my comfort zone was the biggest risk for me.
Hello, my name is Andreas Bloomfield, computer science major. What I learned during my 3 days at YMTF was really Mr. Williams, don't sell out for the money, always keep your family first, like how you turned down the opportunity at El Dorado, not turning down, but talking to your boss later. But my question is, how do you determine when to keep it real? Because like I'm a realist, and I can say like sometimes I do go a little too far.
Yeah, I would say to keep it real, just it's all in your tone. You can get across to people what you need to get across to and keep it real, but you also have to be real to yourself. I remember the first time I was a supervisor, and before I became a supervisor, some of the employees had gotten distinguished. That's like the highest you can get. But once I got there, I rated them fairly. And some of the work they weren't doing, but they still got distinguished. I didn't understand that from the previous supervisor. So when I gave them the ratings, I had to go see the director because he wanted me to change the ratings. And I was just like, well, these people aren't performing. And of course, they were white and, I was black. But that wasn't the case. I would just grade fairly, evaluate them fairly. But they wanted me to change it. But I had proof that they did not do the work. So it's one of those things of keeping it real instead of just, okay, yes, sir, I'll change it. No, you have to treat everybody fairly. So I went in there with facts, and I did not have to change the rating. But the thing was, I kept it real to myself. I wanted to have integrity. I wanted to be honest. And they allowed me to keep those ratings as I had it. But if I had gone in there, it's like, no, I'm not going to change it, acting, all ghetto and stuff, then I probably would have got my ratings down. But it's all about tone. It's all about respecting that person, but at the same time, just keeping it real. And so that's how.
Keeping it real does not mean you're hurting somebody's feelings. This notion that you can keep it real without being hurtful. So the ability to communicate, you have to understand, is this a time to go Miss Cherry Gangster, or is this a time to go, let me be nice about this and sort of get the same point across? There's a time and a place for that, because, and Miss Cherry is a great example, because I think each of us in here knows that Miss Cherry is also very loving.
Yes.
You can get, Miss Cherry will treat you the way you're supposed to be treated. But when you're running afoul of something, there's a point where she's got to say, okay, you didn't get the nice language, this language is here. But she was true to herself throughout the entire time. This notion that keep it real means I can say anything to you that I want to, that is flawed thinking. Right. So I just really wanted to make that point home. Communicate effectively does not mean to communicate to hurt somebody. Think about what you're trying to say.
So one of the competencies that we talk about and you can classify as keeping it real is awareness.
Yes.
Right? I think that you have to be aware of your environment, and it's a term out there called emotional intelligence.
Yes, EQ. That's right.
There's plenty of books around emotional intelligence where when is the right time to communicate someone, understanding how to effectively communicate these things to individuals. So something from a self-help standpoint for you, grab a book around emotional intelligence, and they can help you navigate through that piece. So.
Hello, my name is John Burgess. I'm a sophomore in Industrial Technology Management with Applied Engineering. And one thing I learned when the conference was on the first night, Jeff Johnson, he speak about basically, being out of your comfort zone, being able to explore things in life, especially things you never tried. That's something, on favorite team try to do. So yeah, you help me out with that. This question for you, Don, you mentioned that you had a business on 28. It's a very hard question. So I want to know the name of the business, what you did, and still.
So the name of the business was called Best of Both Worlds. My specialty was in men and women clothing. So at this point in time, think it was only 2 places in Pine Bluff that sold like urban wear. I think it was Looking Good and I can't remember the name of it. It was some guys that I also knew that stood a business up on Main Street. So I specialized in really shoes. I had a contract with Nike where it was to a point where I didn't know how to do any of these things, and I figured out how to get a contract with Nike, how to bring Nike product into my store, how to get a line of credit, how to do all these specific things, right? Is the business still standing? No. Once that recession hit, I was smart enough to know it was time to shut down shop. You know,
Time to pull out.
But I did take it online and read it online for a couple of years. But I mean, it's something in business where you know supply and demand, the market started to get saturated, and it was just time to pull out.
Hello, I'm Eddie Peterson, a sophomore in the elementary education major. One thing I learned from the conference as a whole is everybody doesn't have to see your vision as long as you see your vision. And it's what God let me execute. My question, anybody can answer this. My question would be, I really have the drive that keeps me up at night, you know, kind of like, okay, what's next? So how would you say, how do you balance between having the ambition, but like not being overcritical of yourself?
No, I think it's being intentional, right? Having a plan, and just be prepared to get hit in the mouth. When Mike Tyson say, everybody got a plan until you get punched in the mouth. I mean, just have a plan. So the things that you want to do you have a clear understanding of mapping out how you're going to do them, and then also understanding that you're going to fail. And not saying that from being negative, but failure is necessary. When I worked at Amazon, one of our key pieces of success was lessons learned. And we'll run a plan, we'll fail. I have those thoughts in my head, and I'll personally run a plan and I'll fail, and then I'll think about to myself, all right, what do I have to do different? What do I have to change, right? So to make sure that I kind of control those thoughts in my head, I map out a plan, create checkpoints, create goals and different things on the progress of my plan, and it just kind of makes me feel good at night on understanding that I'm on track versus just having these ideas in my head.
Also, I have a backup plan because like Don said, some things aren't going to go as well as you think they are. You know, we always think this is going to happen, but you're going to have some obstacles in the way that's going to make you do a U-turn, make a left turn, a right turn. So just make sure you always have this backup plan. Like I said in my story, I had no intention of coming to Pine Bluff. I was going straight to the Air Force. But something happened. I could not go. So what I have to do, I had to come to Pine Bluff. So you have to make sure you have a backup plan. But also, like you said, write things down. You know, to me, that's progress, that's success. When you complete something you know you say you want to do and you check it off, it feels so good, like, yes, I did that. So I want all of y'all, I don't know if you have a sheet of paper or not, but put on the napkin or something. But fold that in half. On one side, put your 1-year goals, things you want to complete by December 31st of 2022. On the other side, put down goals you want to reach in 5 years. And the one that's in 5 years, you know, put it somewhere safe, and whenever 2027 comes, look at those goals and see what have you accomplished. I mean, within 5 years, say, I want to graduate, I want to work here, I want to be married, 3 kids, you know, I want to be my high school commencement speaker, whatever those goals are, you have to write them down. If you don't write them down, then they're not goals. You know, you keep things in your head, put it on your phone, anything, but write it down so you could check it off. So anything you want to do by December 31st, write it down. Lose weight, read the Bible in a year, you know, read a book per month. I don't know, make all A's this semester.
Hello, my name is Bill. I'm a freshman here in criminal justice. And my question is, Mr. Dunn, how did you make it out being in that household, how your father being an addict, and get to where you are now?
And I'm going to say this is something I tell to my kids all the time. I don't really participate in pity parties, right? I don't know really what that gets you. And my kids, and I'm going to kind of go to this story and then go to that. They play basketball, they play AAU basketball, my twins. And every time they get in the car, they ask me, how did I do? And I give them candid feedback, and somebody has a breakdown in the backseat, somebody gets mad, and I tell them, all right, I'm cutting up the music, I don't want to come to your pity party, right? And when I think about my life, I could have felt sorry for myself, but I'm not sure what that would have did for me in life, right? Yeah. I think the points that we just made is, all right, I'm in a bad situation. what do I need to do to get out of this situation? And I think I was operating with all of the principles that we're talking about now, but it wasn't intentional. It was just, these were things that I was kind of doing. They were more so instinctive, right? So I found a mentor, okay? I found someone that I saw doing these things. It's even to a point where I wanted to transfer to a college preparatory high school in Memphis. And I just told my mom, hey, I'm gonna go to another school next year. I just need you to make sure you sign off on the paperwork. And I was going to a college preparatory school because I got into this school the next year. So for me, it was one, controlling my own situation, where you don't have to be a certain age to say, hey, I'm gonna do this in life. I mean, I see kids now, I teach my kids now how to run a business at 12 years old and how to do these things. So don't create a pity party for yourself. Figure out what obstacles and barriers, and we talk about that in corporate America all the time, what barriers you have in your way, and figuring out how to get over those barriers or remove those barriers to get to the point. So it's just as simple as that. I found the challenges and I understood how to get around the challenges.
Everybody, my name is Joel Stark. I'm a junior here at the university, majoring in biology with a minor in criminal justice. I learned a lot from you guys over the span of 3 days, and I realized everybody that spoke were leaders, no matter where. Because I learned in the conflict session that, you know, there will be conflicts that arise every day, and we do have conflicts every day, especially on the track and field team. And you just don't know how to do it because somebody has ADHD, somebody has depression, and I'm like, okay, I do not know what to do, guys. So could you guys like give me tips on how to help out with the different minds, like how to separate them, how to do all those things?
There's a thing called situational leadership. There's a book about it, online courses, and in situational leadership, it teaches you that you're being consistent to each situation. And so you can't carry one conversation into the next. I think for all of us that are professionals, we're literally in nonstop meetings throughout the day. You have to be able to leave this finance meeting because now I'm in a research and development meeting. So you have to be present in the conversation that you're in. And as you're present in that conversation, you need to understand what that situation is. What does this call for you? And that's really what leadership is. Is this my time to give somebody on my team some fish so they can get through today? Or is this the day that I teach them how to hook the worm so that they can do it themselves? I need to be flexible in my approach. Again, I said this a couple times today. You're not always one thing. And when you work with people, everybody is not always going to be the same. Everybody's got a different temperament. Everybody's got a different set of things going on in their lives. So you have to, and the elders say this a lot, you have to meet people where they are. And being a leader is about being aware of where somebody is and meeting them right there.
My name is Alexis Phillips, and I'm a junior here. I'm a marketing major. I learned a lot over these past few days, just controlling how you are when it comes to different settings and self-care. So my question is to you guys, or one of you, is when you can't change your situation and environment, as for an example, when you're here and things may not be going your way, what kind of coping mechanisms can you have to just kind of be positive and just motivate yourself to keep going and graduate and do things like that when it's kind of seemed like a difficult situation where you're in right now?
Well, I'm a positive person. So I would say pray, but in addition to praying, always look at the positive side of any situation. You know, if you made an F, just say, hey, you're in between successes. If you have no money in the bank, you just say, hey, my money's in circulation. So you have to turn it around. You don't ever look at what you don't have, you just look at what you have. So you turn your lemons into lemonade. So if something goes wrong, just like, look at the best part. Okay, my car's on the flat, but you know what? I got a friend over here to help me out. So you just have to make sure that you just stay positive and also be around positive people. Because, you're going to have a lot of things that go wrong in college. But if you have a lot of people that come to you, that come to your pity party,
Misery loves company.
you're not gonna get anywhere. It's just like, oh girl, I knew he was gonna break up with you, girl. He wasn't no good anyway, blah, blah, blah. Then they go out and take your man. But if you have a good friend, be like, girl, you're worth more than he is. He didn't deserve you, and you are a queen. You can get anybody you want. Don't think of, just think positively. So, but in college, you're gonna have a lot of negativity. In life, you're gonna have a lot of negativity. And I can say that in life, this is how I do it. And if I can't control something in life, I try not to let it affect me. But if you can control something, then you can change that situation. But some things are just out of your control. So don't worry about those things you can't control. People, you cannot control. You can love somebody, give somebody everything, but if they don't respond how you want them to, and you get mad, like, girl, I went and got my best friend this, and she didn't even say thank you. You can't control that. All you can say was, I was a good friend to her, and you just move on. So don't worry about what people and how they respond, because you cannot control them. Sometimes we get so caught up that we want people to react how we want them to react, and we want them to do what we want them to do, but we have no control of that. And that's where a lot of our stresses come in. That's where a lot of our mental issues come in, because we want to control everything, and we can't. So just think about the things that you can control in your life, and that's you, in your actions, in your situation. Like you said, things are going to happen, but guess what? It's 90% of how you respond to those things. And you got to respond positively.
I'm a freshman, my major is industrial technology, management, and applied engineering. My question is, how do you deal with, say everything's going all right, and then out of nowhere, you just lose motivation to keep going? How do you deal with that?
In terms of losing motivation, somebody asked the question of, what is my why? That's your motivation. Yeah. You know why you came. That's your why, right? I want to finish this degree. What do I have to do to finish this degree? I want to pass this class. What do I need to do to pass this class? I have this track meet coming up. What do I need to do to prepare for this track meet? Your why, and we talk about this in business as well too, you always have to ground yourself to your why. As a company, our goal is to deliver medicines for unmet therapies. And so everything we do, every conversation I'm in, it's about the patients. How is this going to benefit the patient? We're looking at the data and saying, does this data show that this is going to be efficacious? Is this going to have the effect we want on the patients? And we have to be able to say, this drug isn't going to work for us because it's not going to meet our why. And so we talk about that. It's everywhere in all of our buildings. You have to ground yourself to your why. And that's why your why always changes, because it depends on what you're trying to do. So find your motivation in your why.
But in addition to your why, then also you just have to, just know where you want to go. And, like I said, people are going to throw rocks at you, but you use all of that negativity as fuel to get you to where you want to go. Like I said, I work for NASA, and I've had people say, hey, my PhD wasn't worth anything because it came from HBCU. They gave me fuel to prove myself because I knew that I worked hard for my PhD, and it was worth something. I've been in meetings where it said I didn't deserve to be there. I didn't deserve to sit at the table because of my color, because I'm a woman. But, it hurt. But guess what? They gave me fuel to say, you know what? Why can't I sit at the table? I know as much as you all know. So they gave me motivation to do better, to study more, to read more, to question them more, just to know my craft more. So whatever your craft is, be good at. If you're a basket weaver, be the best basket weaver there is. You have to know your craft. And don't be afraid to say that you don't know something. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask for help. That's where we fail at sometimes. We get discouraged and we think we have to do it by ourselves. But if you have a good friend, go to that friend. If you don't have a good friend, go to God. Pray about it. You got to have a support system. So when you lose that motivation, you got to have a support system to help you lift you up.
Like this, keep your eye on the prize.
Yep. Yep.
And I use the analogy, just say that we're taking a road trip, right? And you put your destination in the GPS. Throughout that road, you may experience some bumps. For example, you may get a flat tire. It's going to be probably demotivating if you get a flat tire on that trip. But do you just end the whole trip and say, forget the trip? Or do you get out, you adjust? Do you send somebody a message and say, hey, I'm not going to be on time. I'd have to fix his tire and get back on that route. So one of the things that I do just to make sure that I stay motivated on that journey when I get bumps is I'm looking forward. And when I hit those bumps, I'm making adjustments on how do I continue to stay on that path to get to the final destination.
Now, as we're closing, the reason I got up, because we have some other, I want the other consultants to leave you with a nugget. And I'm going to start with my friend Bobby Sweat. She can tell you who she works for, and then she's going to leave you with a nugget.
Currently, I am the Director of Diversity and Inclusion with a small financial services organization in Fort Worth, Texas. And I've been doing that this kind of work, diversity and inclusion, belonging, equity, commitment, culture, and climate, for about 18 years now. So, life's a journey. And I think that, everything you've heard of her. And it's a learning opportunity. I heard someone, I think, you put his talk in chapters. And when you think about life, and you think about the book of life, a book has a chapter. And you'll never get to the next chapter if you keep reading the first chapter, right? So you have to keep moving forward. And that kind of leads me to how we're learning. And when I was growing up in Arkansas, I had this great aunt. She was actually a graduate of UAPB. She lived to be about 93 years old. And one of the things that she always encouraged the family, whether you were young or old, and she demonstrated that she never lost her thirst for knowledge. And so if I could leave you in this class, at this conference with anything, as you go through your book, your life journey, always, and find that knowledge in any source, always have a thirst for knowledge.
I think most of you know I work at NASA, Johnson Space Center, and I am a senior integrator with the Human Health Performance Contract. My good friend, and he was also my teacher at Point in church, told me that there is nothing more powerful than a made-up mind, than a mind made up. And I think that everything that we've talked about here, whether it's loving yourself, whether it's time management, whether it's conflict resolution, whether it's accomplishing a goal, is once you make your mind up, and you've heard all of these people say they decided, Andreas, I think that's how you say his name, said he decided he wanted to leave Jamaica. Dunn decided, he wanted to be CEO or wherever he's trying to go his path. Dr. Bloomfield decided, people decide. Once you make your mind up, there's nothing more powerful than that. And like I told you guys, you already have everything you need. We come here to just repeat things, but you already know inside of you.
Stress. Like, I am Felisa Kennedy. Because my name and people knowing my name is very important to me for a number of reasons. One is my dad gave me my name. Now, he misspelled it, but, he wanted it pronounced Felisa. So I'm very intentional about making sure that when I'm in a room and I introduce myself, that the people in the room know my name. Why am I saying that? I'm saying that because relationships are important to me. So because I want people to know my name, I listen to make sure that I know their names or I know something about them, because I'm looking to build relationships. When we have gone into the classrooms, that a number of you guys are doing things already that somebody sitting right next to you really want to be doing, but you guys don't think that what you're doing is important. that the need for you to share and build those relationships beyond just the surface relationships are important. So I stress relationships because let me tell you what, the things that I've been able to accomplish, I wouldn't have been able to do that without a number of these people in the room. So I leave you with one thing, and Dr. Ruth kind of left you with it or whatever. The three most important relationships are having a friend, somebody who knows you, somebody who will tell you, you know, when this stuff kind of stank. A spiritual person in your life, whatever you, whomever, having that grounding. And then having somebody who is invested in your success.
I'm Alvin Pierce. I'm Alvin Pierce from the USDA. I've been going with me for 27 years. All right, 23 years, 8 years left to retire. So somebody's got to replace me. But what I would say to you all, from everybody that is up on this panel, know your source first, then know your resources. Everybody sitting at this table has a reach. Be able to communicate that reach as you travel along the way. Because tomorrow is but a dream. Today is your promise. Today.
Reach back. I'm expecting all of you at the career fair tomorrow, but you got some friends. You need to tell them about this conference. You need to tell them what you learned. You need to tell them to be there tomorrow. Because we have over 100 employers that will be on this campus. They came here to see you. They don't want to see me. Although they don't see me. But they didn't come here to see me. And guess what they do? They come here. They don't see you representing this university. Then they decide, I want to go somewhere else where I can see students. You have that responsibility. Y'all want that chap, 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 and chap, chap, and whatever it is. I'm going to say it like it is. Just own it. I see you. You just roll it on, roll it on, roll it on. Look at that picture. Look at that picture. But one picture should have come across saying career fair. Did it, J-Bond? All right, J-Bond, put it out there. Follow that. Follow that. Okay? Let me tell y'all what's causing most people to fail college. They go to work for Burger King, Red Lobster. They work you right up to 39 hours. Then you trying to be a full-time student, and you can't balance both. But if you get an internship, you get a co-op. In the fall or spring semester, we only gonna allow you to work 20 hours a week so you can get your homework out. That's what's killing you. Because you don't know the difference between going and getting a part-time job and getting an internship.
I am Deidre Gooden, a native of Tunica, Mississippi. I'm a senior here at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, majoring in Human Development and Family Studies. It is my pleasure to recognize all supporters of the 50th Youth Motivation Task Force Program. As I call the company name or individual, I ask that you please stand. Our platinum supporters are Synchrony Financial, Murphy USA, and AbbVie. Our gold supporters are Tory Corporation, and our individual supporters are Nyerere and Nyerere Billups and Kamisha Freeman. Thank you.
My name is Javon Allen. I'm currently a senior here at the university, majoring in computer science, and I'm from Orlando, Florida. And on campus, I'm a graphic designer, and I'm also the multimedia specialist in the Office of Career Services as an intern. And today, I will be sharing with you all a few announcements on behalf of the office. So tomorrow we have the UAPB Spring 2022 Career Fair Extravaganza, and I know we've all been used to the virtual platform, but this semester it will be on campus and it will be in the Hyper Complex from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Also on Thursday we have Bristol Myers Squibb Day, which will be held here. And you can check out the back of the program that was made for today and further review the details. Thank you.
So, my remarks, and I'm going to take some words from my protege student out there. Because she saved us notes and always tell us, make our points, have 3 bullets, have some bullets for what you want your points to be. The consultants have done such a wonderful job. And the points that I picked up that I want to point out to you all, 3 words that stuck with me throughout this whole program: plan, determination, and recognition. Write the vision and make it plain. Whether that plan is official or unofficial, write the vision and make it plain. Don talked about what he planned and what wasn't a part of his plan. He didn't plan to come to college, but he got here. Dr. Ruth didn't plan to major in physics, but she got there. Plan. You got to have a plan. Write it down, because when you write it down, it becomes reality. Don also mentioned perception. I believe that perception becomes your reality. Make your plan. Make your plan. Make it plain. Make your perception your reality, okay? Your good perception. Determination. Andreas talked about, and I remember when Andreas worked at Walmart, he said he walked from UAPB campus to Walmart. I was a manager at Walmart then, and Walmart wasn't where it is now. It was on 28th Street where the U-Haul is. That's still a good distance from this campus. Determination. I could not remember one day that Andreas was late. I also, in all the time that Andreas worked there, I never knew that he didn't have a car and was walking to work. When he got there, he wasn't drenched in sweat. He didn't look all wrinkled and out of place. He wasn't huffing and puffing out of breath. I guess that one that he did to prepare for the track team helped him to be in shape. He was never late. But that is determination. A lot of times we ask you all about being a part of something or taking part in something. And a lot of times what I hear is, I don't have time, or I got so much to do. But if you have that determination to do what's really right for you, to get you to that next level of your life, you will find that determination in you to do what you need to do. The other word was recognition. Everybody on this panel talked about something that they recognized eventually within themselves that they did not see in the beginning. What stood out to me was when Nyerere talked about his study habits and how his instructor told him to do something, and he recognized that communication was his gift. When we talk to students, and when I talk to students a lot and I start asking you about what your strengths are, what are you good at, and you say you don't know, I tell you to start paying attention to you and start to recognize things that you do that you know you're good at. Start recognizing what that strength is that you have. So start paying attention. Just pay attention to you. Pay attention to even, I tell students, listen at the feedback that you get from others, even from your friends. Your friends are going to tell you something, whether it's a strength or a weakness, but they're going to make you recognize something within yourself. One of the last things that I took, believe in yourself. Because if you don't believe in you, how can you expect somebody else to? So you got to believe in you. Okay? And if that be all, I'm done. And we're done.